I've got Anne Pettifer's name written down here, and I must have been at a conference earlier in the year where she proposed some sort of, was it the Million Jobs, or, you know, and she'd written a book on that, but you know, the Transnational Institute, aren't they responsible partly with collaborating for that? So does that ring a bell, or is it just business? No?
And was she one of the co-authors of the Green New Deal?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to raise, probably.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, she's probably on in that group, putting that demand together. Yeah. Which we should all be able to rally behind, obviously.
Pete?
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, like I said, my understanding was that what Chris Boss and maybe some of the other people you mentioned were trying to put together was a sort of paper they were trying to bring on board some academics and scientists to comment on the feasibility of some of these things. Because I think when you bring up the issue of what, you know, Vestas in a way is an easy case, and I think several of us recognise that, and they're making wind turbines, you know, that's nice. But what happens with the car factory? I mean, we've just got, Vauxhall's just been taken over by somebody. They might close down two of the biggest car plants in Britain, if they feel like it. And also, the other thing that's interesting is a meeting on Monday night with Anne Pettifer and, what's his name, Bob Crow. You see, the scientific issue comes in there because I think Bob Crow was insisting there's such a thing as carbon capture, therefore you can have clean coal mining. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know, but people in the audience are saying this is a myth. Yes. You know, this is a myth. You can't have it. It doesn't exist. It's like, you know, asking for dry rain or something. So, you know, I think this scientific intervention from Chris Boff and if he can get the scientists together is very good, because we do need to know, because, you know, we've got tensions within the union movement and within the Green and Labour movement sort of pulling in various directions, because there's quite a faction that would go for out-and-out nationalisation, never mind about workers' control, coal mining, no nukes, and as many renewables as you can get. And I believe, I could be corrected of course, that's the sort of RMT Socialist Party line.
Yeah, sounds like it.
No.
I mean, just in terms of, I'll say, just in case of this carbon capture business, well, the last job I did was there for air liquid, like, you know, we used to do CO2 tankering and delivery. My job was to make sure the tankers didn't blow up by testing them much. And yeah, you can make liquid CO2 very easy. In fact, most people participate in the use of it, you know, in the food and drinks industry, because that's the main sort of core of it. And I think, I don't know what it is a tonne, it's about £200 a tonne, is it? And you can have as many tonnes as you like, but we're not talking 10 tonnes, 100 tonnes, thousands of tonnes, we're talking millions of tonnes. And there's a difference between the tool, you know, small delivery operation that provides fizzing the beer to actually sucking it out of a large power station that's producing, you know, whop outside this and getting stuffed underground, you know, that's sun going, that is. Yeah. That is sun going. Now, it's technically feasible, probably. Yeah. You know, it costs you a lot of money. Yeah. I don't know a turbine firm that can, you know, produce these big pumps. Maybe Rolls-Royce can do it, but they can't drop them off the, you know, you can't go to a stores and say, I'll have one of those, because that takes a lot of time to set up and deliver. You know, there's lots of potential for, in the short term, maybe it's feasible, I don't know. Yeah. It's a bit of a, you know, myth. Duncan.
I mean, just on carbon capture. I mean, there is a. I mean, this is to say the problem with it isn't the scientific feasibility of it, but just the practical feasibility of it.
Yeah.
There is, I think it's a Norwegian gas.
That's why in the Guardian this week. That's what prompted me.
Which, you know, I think has got, you know, I mean, you know, not a huge amount, but I think it's got some tens of thousands of tons of liquid carbon which has been pumped back into it. But the difficulty is that actually, you know, you don't have many power stations in the middle of the North Sea, you know, and You know, so the idea of the process of collection, and you can't like have a big funnel that goes up to the troposphere and kind of sucks down.
I mean, it's a bigger practical program that's trunking gas from say central Russia to France. You know, you're talking about that sort of level of infrastructure.
Yeah, so I think people have the hypothesis that you take the oil pipes. And you kind of strap a second pipe on top, you know. You have the oil going to the place where it's burnt, and then you pump it back, or maybe even when the oil well opens up, then you just hose it out with salt water, and then pump the CO2.
Some bright person says, well, I'll tell you what you can do with this CO2. You pump it down in the right condition, it can actually start to it'll emulsify what's left of the oil and the gas, and you can have it out again.
Oh,
in about 10 years' time, like he's doing some good work. It's like a magic hand, living into reality. And secondly, I mean, there's also, chemists are fantastic people. You sit and talk to them, they can do most things for you, right? Because you don't have to think about the costs or where costs come from, where profits can be realised, or and all this sort of stuff. And the other thing is that, there's potentially you can turn CO2 if you link it with hydrogen. What if you've got feedstock that will replace petrochemicals, for instance, that can be used for making plastics, because they are one of the basic elements of probably that you could do. So that's a wonderful job we can do. But the cost is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I can't see in the middle to short term, only a planned economy could really think about doing it. That's my conclusion. And that means socialism, and that means everything that goes with it, It's a long-term thing, but, when we talk about the coal and that sort of stuff, you can see the logic in that of jobs, but there's certain links in it. And the market won't do it. The market's never going to rehabilitate the NUN. Come on,
I was just going to say it's not just even like the financial cost in today's terms. You think about the carbon cost of actually physically doing it. But my concern is this with the waste from nuclear fuel. You've got forever and a day to make sure that you think that this carbon that you've captured and stored is going to stay where it is, and there are no geological faults or explosions or anything that's going to just suddenly release it all, and you're leaving that sort of threat of accident to the future as well, just as we are with the waste from nuclear power stations. So this is not really a solution, and it's not a balanced answer.
Turning the seed into Alka-Seltzer, that's a nice thought. That's potentially what you're going to do. You pump it in, it dissolves in the sea, it's all fizzy water. Just to be silly about it, but there is substantial points about it.
What do the sharks think?
That'll get the sharks. That's exactly what I was thinking. That'll wipe them out. Oh, we're going all fishing now.
Yeah.
Just one thing on I think it's been very interesting that the government's been able to blame planning